Welcome to another edition of Leaders Having Lunch with me, your host, Jeff Conroy. And today I want to talk about the onboarding process of bringing on new employees to your company. In my consulting work, I work with a lot of organizations, and I ask them, what is their onboarding process? And the normal answer I get back is, well, it's an hour or two when we can get around to it. That's really kind of disheartening because you're bringing new people into a culture. Whenever I brought new employees into my organization, I always equated it to chemistry. You wanted it to be a perfect fit. You wanted to have nice chemistry with everyone else, and you wanted to make a nice, seamless transition for this person to integrate and become an effective member of your team. So one of the things I've always kind of strived for was to make the onboarding process important. I look at other organizations on what they do for their onboarding, and I look at Disney. And Disney has a whole 2-week training of called Disney University or Traditions, where they immerse their new castmates into the Disney culture. My son, who works for Warner Brothers, did 2 weeks of basically Warner Brothers history before he could even step foot on the lot. So there is some value and some importance to making your people feel like they're part of something bigger than they are if you take a little bit of time. I worked with one organization, they said, when we get around to it, and I said, well, what if we did a day or two just doing nothing but immersing them into the culture of your organization? Some things that I did or that I really focused on with bringing in new employees were really kind of basic things. One is, when they get there to work, make sure their business cards or name tag and work area is ready to go. It's stocked. It's ready to go. It's got notepads. It's got pens. It's got their name tag with their name on it. It makes them feel special. It makes them feel like they are part of the team from the get-go. Make sure that they are logged on to your company network. Do they have a password? Do they have a login? Do they know where the computer is? That type of stuff. Introduce them to the team. It should be a long process of walking them around and showing them where everything is, from where the CEO sits to where the rest of the teammates sit, where the restrooms are. That's vital. Those types of things. Make sure they're filling out the documentation. Take some time, sit with them. Make sure they're filling out all the proper paperwork so they can get paid. One of my favorite sayings is, morale goes down when people don't get paid. So make sure they get the paperwork filled out so they can get paid. Sit down with their supervisor and develop a training plan. It should be a 30, 60, 90-day training plan. If it's a new CEO, it's going out and having one-on-ones with board members and top donors. If it's new to a department, they should be learning their job with their supervisor. There should be benchmarks where they meet. So they're going to meet. If they're meeting with their supervisor, it should be on a weekly basis. If they're meeting with a department head, it could be on a 30, 60, 90-day basis. And one of the most important things is to communicate. Always ask for feedback on their onboarding experience. I always believe that you can always be better. Another one of my favorite sayings is 99% of the world's problems would be solved if people would just communicate. Communicate clearly, openly, concisely. Those are just some basic things on onboarding. And how can you make it better for the new employee? Make it interactive. Make it fun. Make it, do some team building things with their department so they can integrate into their department a little bit more seamlessly. Develop a schedule for them that is personalized for them. It's not going to be part of a whole group thing. While some of their training will be part of a group, they should have certain benchmarks and certain things that they need to do. Give the new employees something special to remember their first day by. Like I said, name tags, business cards, a desk with a chair. I remember once we had an employee come on and he didn't even have a chair. I was stunned. And how does that make that employee feel? Now, the question I get is, what's the difference between an onboarding and an orientation? The employee onboarding process is a long-term structured plan that enables employees to learn about their responsibilities, their performance goals, and to acclimate to their new work environment. An orientation is part of the onboarding and is usually a one-day event. It's kind of this is where the bathroom is, this is where your desk is, this is where your supervisor is, this is where the parking lot is, if you get my meaning. And how long should the onboarding process take? Like I said, most employers don't really do much of an onboarding, and if they do, it's when they quote unquote get around to it. The whole onboarding process shouldn't take longer than 90 days total, from the time they come on, the time they get trained, to the time they get acclimated, to the time their goals, their checkpoints. 90 days. Is onboarding the same as a training? No. Onboarding is a process of integrating the new employee to the rest of the employees, the management team, the organizational culture. All this is done while training is the process of educating the new employee on the tasks, duties, and responsibilities of the job. Onboarding and trainings are separate, yes, must coexist to complement each other to successfully integrate the new employee to the organization. I'm going to tell you a story. It's important to do a proper onboarding. Organization who had some cultural issues. And one of the comments I made to them was, why don't you bring an elder or a senior member to come in and spend half a day with your new people to orientate them on the history and the background of why they are the way they are. And that was like all new information to them. So it's really important to give those new hires a huge picture of what's expected of them. What are they walking into? What is the background of who they are, and what they're working for, and who they're working with. It will make that onboarding experience a lot better, and you'll have a much happier team member and a long-lasting team member. So, onboarding. If you're not doing it, do it. If you're not only getting around to it, make it purposeful in what you do. Thank you for listening. And remember, leadership begins with a relationship.